Hello and welcome to Wood and What You Don't Need. Today's episode is going to be a bit different. Of course, we're going to talk about watches, specifically Casio G-Shock watches, but I'm going to tell you about something that happened when I was a child. I can't remember if it was 5th grade or maybe 6th grade. It was the mid/late 80s, and I would like to know if there's an episode in your life that you link to a particular watch and that made you feel a sort of an attachment, an unexplainable emotional or sentimental attachment to a certain watch or a certain brand of watches. My particular story goes back, as I told you, to the mid or late 80s. I had a classmate who used to want to make, he called them exchanges. It was some kind of barter. He wanted to swap an item that he had for an item that you had and he desired. Usually he got the better end of the deal, which is he had this innate, how should I call it, salesman ability of making the things that he owned and that he was wanting to give away, making them look like they were so
precious and so desirable
that you desired those things, and after 5 minutes you realized that
that had been a bad deal for you.
Let me give you an example. He had some kind of sugar candies. They were like these small balls of sugar with a very faint flavor of some fruit, I don't know, lemon, strawberry, raspberry, whatever. They were nothing but that, like small balls of hard candy, mainly sugar, and that he made look so tasty that I had seen him get model cars like these, or even Transformers at the time, or even those action figures from the Masters of the Universe like He-Man and Skeletor, so on and so forth, in exchange for like 5 or 10 of those hard candies, which was blasphemy. I mean, 10 of those candies were worth maybe a 20th of an action figure of He-Man, or maybe even less. I never liked those candies, so I had never really done business with him. But one day I brought to school a car model. It was not this very car. It was a yellow car, maybe from the brand Matchbox, I'm not sure. And along with the car there came 2 kind of plastic wedges. They were meant to look like 2 ramps made of earth or dirt, we could say, or gravel. It was of course all plastic, but these were 2 ramps, and between the ramps there was a yellow plastic bridge. But the bridge had holes on it, and so the car was supposed to use the ramps in order to jump over those holes in the bridge. And that was the toy that I had, and that I had brought to school. And he so liked that toy that he proposed one of his exchanges. And what he proposed in exchange for that model car and those plastic wedges and bridge, this very watch. Only not this one, the original G-Shock from the mid-80s. The one with the real steel screw-down back, the one made in Japan. I think the functions were almost exactly those of this model, which is the DW-5750, only that model had a different reference number, but the functions I think were these ones. So you have your local time, your alarm, fancy alarm that you can choose a specific day of the month, all the days of one specific month, or just every 8th of the month for the alarm to beep. You have your timer with the auto repeat functions, and with your current time always displayed in a region of the screen. You have your stopwatch with the local time always displayed, and I have done a review of this watch together with his younger sibling, the GWX-5700, in another video. And then that's that. You don't have dual time, you don't have any other fancy functions like multiple alarms, just these functions. But, well, what would you have done? A G-Shock in exchange for a model car and a couple of pieces of plastic, of course, I said, yes, I'm gonna take the G-Shock. And for some hours, I was the happiest child on the face of the earth. I couldn't believe it. I had one of those watches which I loved so much. I didn't even know their name. I just know that they were Casio. I didn't know what the word G-Shock meant, but I just liked them. It looked like with that particular watch I could do anything. It was like the ultimate prop for my fantasy. I felt like I was like Arnold Schwarzenegger in some movie where he was like the baddest of the bad ASSs, and I felt really over the moon. I felt so happy. Well, what happened is that after going back home, the doorbell rings, and it's the older brother of this guy whom I had made the exchange with. And the older brother said to my mom, look, my little brother just made a silly exchange this morning. He exchanged my watch for a model car that belongs to your son. Could I please have my watch back? And here is your model car and plastic earth wedges and bridge. So he gave back the car and plastic pieces to my mom, who in turn gave them back to me, and I had to give him back the watch, which was this watch. And now, after 30 more years, I had the chance of buying it back, and finally I can wear it on my wrist without any sense of guilt for having obtained it through an unfair exchange. What do I want to say with this video is that memories from our childhood can remain so vividly as to make us want to own objects that for other people might not have any significance, but are significant for us. And this, I think, is one of the great factors for Casio to still be selling tons and tons of watches. The nostalgic factor. Many children of the late 70s or 80s or even 90s look at these pieces of, how should I call them, old technology as something that they yearn for, that they longed for when they were children. And now they can have them for a comparatively small amount of money, and so we buy them and we are happy to own them. By the way, I bought this secondhand. It was in someone's drawer. It had never been worn, and I'm so happy that now I get to wear it on my wrist, so that I can always get that sensation of having something magical on my wrist, something magical as it used to be magical when I was a child. And now it's your turn to share stories like this in the comments below. And I'll see you on the next of Wooden, What You Don't Need. Ciao.